वैसे भी तुम सबकी शक्लें एक ही सी होती हैं, कैसे पता चलेगा कौन रहता है यहाँ?
अगर हम सबके शक्लें एक ही जैसे होते हैं तो तेरे को कैसे पता है कि हर बार दूसरा बंदा आता है?
Our characters are written. We are written from a lens of pity, because it's always like, अरे तो ये नॉर्थ ईस्ट से है, ये भी इंडियन है, पता है? You know, we are like the victims who will emerge victorious. That sort of, they want to show that, and it's just like, you know, like this chill, and people just asking me, how can you be okay with Shayani Gupta being cast as a girl from the northeast? You know, there's a funky smell coming from this house, and the neighbors are like, kutta, you know, kutta kha raha hai. And then they called the cops, and the cops came. When I complain about being groped and molested, because men from the northeast have been held in such a high regard in terms of treatment of women, it's the men will be like, oh, but then it must have happened to you in Delhi. And I'm like, no, it happened to me in Nagaland, it happened to me in the streets of Kohima.
Hello everyone, this is Rishita Rajbanshi, and I welcome you to our very first virtual interview, because we have a very special guest here actually with us today, but who is not here in Guwahati. She is hundreds of kilometers away in Nagaland, but our guest today is known for creating brilliant content which revolves around so many important aspects like class barrier, or calling out the inherent racism in people all across the country. All of this done through brilliant skits written by her. So let me just welcome you, actor, writer, and of course what she is known to most of the people for being the brilliant and very popular YouTuber that she is. I welcome you, Merenla Imsong. So welcome, Merenla, to Spotlight Northeast, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm glad I joined you.
So I'll just start with, I really wanted to ask you this question ever since we talked about the interview, actually, that you are known for creating such humorous content. Like, I watch your videos in one go. Sometimes like I watch it on repeat. But like your videos hold such important messages, you know, that you, whether it's in terms of calling out certain things in your home state, Nagaland, like class barriers, or you know, calling out the inherent racism in people all across the country, they hold very important messages. So would you agree with the fact that you have become much more than someone who just merely creates comical characters or comical videos for social media? Would you agree with the fact that you are gradually turning into a satirist, a commentator, maybe?
I don't know, because it's such a heavy burden to carry, I feel, because the moment people put a huge label on you, it just makes you so scared and conscious, you know, like, oh shit, now I have to really think about the content I put out, because it doesn't happen. So I really try not to think about all of that, and whatever video idea that comes to my head, however silly it may be, I just want to just keep putting it out there. You know, it's
so
like,
you want to create the kind of content that you have been creating without taking a lot of pressure from anyone to constantly create that kind of work. But what you do very much inadvertently is actually being a satirist. So it's good that probably you don't need the label to be so, but you do it anyway.
Because I don't know, once you become, because everyone loves to put you in a box, right? So once you get put into the box, it's just a lot of pressure, and you're just like, oh, I have to now do this. I know
live up to the expectations of everyone.
Yeah, and I don't work great under pressure, so I keep trying not to. Also, it makes me so anxious when I'm under pressure. So I just try not to give in to pressure, and just make whatever I find funny.
So
sometimes
I think
what
we
I
would
find
also
funny,
very much like for you to not be under pressure or not be anxious about anything, and just put out the kind of content that you are already doing. And rightfully so, actually, rightfully so. Also, now not only me, I am pretty sure many other people would also want to know that this notion of people who grow up in conflict zones or what have actually previously been conflict zones, whether it's your home state Nagaland or my home state Assam, we are often being stereotyped and often being expected to be deprived of humor. Now people like
Yeah.
you are actually breaking those stereotypes by just doing what you probably like doing the most. You don't even have the motive to break any stereotype, but you are doing it again inadvertently. So, but
Mm.
like, can you tell us a bit about your life in Nagaland while growing up, or about your childhood? And on another note, because you have mentioned that your parents always wanted you to be a doctor, so do they still want you to be a doctor, like even now?
I think it's a little too late now for me to be a doctor. So I just have to realize that. They wanted me to be a doctor, then they wanted to be an IAS officer. I actually had one grandmother, and
Okay.
I remember she was praying for me, and she was like praying that I will become an IAS officer. I remember my dad took me to meet her, and the way she prayed, she was like praying, like, give her good health, give her blah blah blah, and then she said, and make her an IAS officer. And I remember at that point in the prayer, I was like, do I want to be an IAS officer? This whole
A very
existential,
specific prayer to God.
super specific, that let her be an IAS officer, because they just assumed. And the problem was that I was not a bad student. I was actually a good student. I was actually one of the school. I was a state topper also. So
Okay,
that gave
okay.
extra pressure. Everyone was like, after my 10th board exam results came out, everyone was like, "Acha, so doctor, engineer, IAS officer, one of these things,
One of
definitely." That's just,
the only
yeah.
options that brilliant kids are
Only
usually
option
left with.
now, yeah. And I guess I just went with the flow. I was also like, yeah, yes, doctor, engineer, IAS officer, yes, doctor, engineer, IAS officer. Like, I was also just thinking like that. But I think at the back of my head, I always loved creative arts, and I've always wanted, to be a performer. And I think I couldn't contain it anymore, and that's how I managed to join this field. I was born in Assam, by the way.
Oh, really? That's something that I didn't know. Where exactly in Assam?
So, Oil India Hospital,
All
Duliajan.
right. Okay, okay. You
Yeah,
are you were born in Duliajan. That's actually
yeah,
that's
I'm
a
a
very
Dulia baby.
so
Yeah.
when you broke the news, like, did you really have to confront your parents and tell them that, okay, this is the kind of career that I want to opt for, or it just happened with the flow and they were okay with how it panned out eventually for you?
They initially thought I had slightly lost my mind, and they were like, "Oh, this is a phase, and she'll come back to her
Okay.
senses." So the thing with my parents is that they have never, they've always allowed me to do whatever I want to do, and I'm so fortunate that way, because they've never
Mm-hmm.
pressured me into doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, they'll tell you, like, okay, fine, you can do whatever you want, but like, there's nothing like having a government job because of the security. Like, they would tell me that, but they wouldn't
Yeah.
force me. When I said, when I was living in Delhi, and they knew that that I'm not going to be taking coaching classes anymore, but I will actually be joining a theater group to help production backstage. I mean, it was a little for them, but they were like, "Okay, we'll support you. Just
They
keep
took it
on
in. They
and do
took their sweet time, but they agreed.
yeah, they did." And then now they've come to terms with it. Now they're okay with it. They like, my mom gets worried about the trolling and whatnot that
Mm-hmm.
happens, but and then my dad just, my dad is a complete joker, so
But I'm
he
pretty sure
thinks,
they're also very proud of you for who you have become, because I mean, you are already there. You are, of course, on your way. You have a long way in future to be far more successful, but you are already on the way to be that person.
I don't know, they've never ever said it verbally. So my mom would
Asian
come to
parents don't really
yeah,
say such
yeah.
things. That's
But
the
my
kind of
dad
thing.
like to say it, but behind my back. So
Hmm.
when I had my first stand-up show back home, my mom came, and my mom did not laugh even once. Throughout, she was just sitting like this, and I saw her face. I was like, "Oh, she's not enjoying it." And after it was done, she was like, "It was very nice. It was so funny. I really liked it." But you didn't even crack a smile. And as for my dad, he's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna come, please. I'm not gonna come and watch you just crack jokes, like whatever." And he was being a diva. And then later on, I find out that he's happily going around telling people, my daughter's doing this, my daughter's doing this. So he says things behind my back. So
Instead of putting the child on a pedestal, let them just be grounded enough, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's his way of showing appreciation, I guess. Never to my face, but behind my back. But also, my dad and I, we always have this banter going on. So to and fro, we're always joking with each other.
Okay.
So so that's why and sometimes I when I give it back, I can see him nodding and be like, "That was a good one." Yeah. Exactly. But he won't say it verbally, but he'll be like, "Yay."
So, Merenla, you of course write your own scripts in all of your skits, or if, but you also act. But not only in your own videos do you act, but you have also been a part of many other productions that we have seen you on screen. Good Tea, The Passing. The Passing was something I was really shocked to see you without. I think that was the first video that I came across of yours where I saw a very different Merenla, and I was like, I mean, that's the actor in her. And then very recently, you were part of a Netflix production, Axone. So, so how far do you want to go in terms of experimenting with your work, with your characters? Are you open to all the doors, or do you want to stick to one particular genre in future as an actor, also as a writer? So how much do you want to experiment in both the terms? Do you want to write about other different scripts, different stories? What are your plans?
I mean, as a writer, I think I still have a very long way to go because there's so many nuances of script writing and all of that. So I still have a very long way to go. Also because I've just been writing sketches and skits now, so my mind is just focused on one type of writing. I wanted to be an actor, and I started doing all of this because I was not getting roles, because roles for people like me were not being written out there. So I had to create my own ecosystem where I could just thrive. And initially, I used to think of it as, oh, this is my little art project, is what I really thought about, because I had no intention of making videos. It's just that I was at my cousin's house and he shot a video clip of mine just doing some bakwas. And then he just sent it to his WhatsApp family group. And by the second day, people were returning that video to me saying, "Hey, this was really funny," and it was just getting shared. And then I was like, "Oh wait, I think I just went viral in Nagaland." So I was like, "Oh, seems like a good idea. Maybe if people think this is funny, then I should put up more stuff of this, And it was just all accidental. And then I realized I really enjoy this. So that's why my first videos are very raw, and they're not well sketched out and just silly. And then after that, I started putting more effort, and I'm like, okay, like this. I'm gonna try to make it like this and all of that. So I enjoy the whole process, and it's helped me get other work also, which is great. Yeah, I mean, things are changing now because, like I said last week, I had in a span of a week, I got 3 auditions, and I was just like, whoa, what's happened? That's all. I just keep making these videos until they help me get more work. Is what the plan is. And
your videos are certainly working in your favor because, like you said, like you very recently had a series of auditions, which means that they are working out in your favor, and we are very glad to hear that. Actually,
well, actually, the auditions didn't come through the video.
Okay.
Because once you go for a few auditions, then casting directors know about you, and then especially when they're casting for people from the Northeast, they get very desperate, and then they just so somehow your number reaches them, and then they audition you, and then if it's a big role, then they get scared to take the risk, and they go ahead with someone who's not from the Northeast.
So I actually wanted to ask you about on this regard as well, that how welcoming, since you also spend a significant amount of your time in Bombay as well, apart from Nagaland, if I'm not wrong. So how welcoming has Mumbai been to a content creator from the Northeast? How has your journey been in Mumbai, outside Nagaland so far, as a content creator, as a writer, as an actor?
My journey has been pretty good also because I have a way of just mentally, I have a way of sieving out bad stuff and just, and any bad memories that I may have, I like to turn it around into comedy. So comedy is like, it's like my defense mechanism, but it also helps me process a lot of things. And Delhi is where I studied, and I had a wonderful time in Delhi. In fact, I got special treatment in college because I was the different one. So by special treatment, I mean like I would be sitting in class, and the teachers would ask me, "Are you understanding?" Like after class, teachers would call me aside and say, "Are you like, is our accent difficult for you to understand?" Because we're not very expressive. We're from the Northeast. We
Yeah.
like to just quietly sit in one corner and like
And
just
mind
nod our
our
head and
own
write our notes.
business. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas the other students are always like, like asking questions. So because I wasn't asking questions, they started getting worried that I wasn't understanding them, and they would get so worried. Like, so the teachers treated me with extra, like, and the other students started noticing, like, "Wow, isko to aise bolte hain, isko to aise bolte hain." They were like, they would tease me. Like there was a slight tinge of jealousy, but they would tease me. And like I remember standing in the corridor once and talking to all of us classmates were standing and talking, and everyone was talking, and then I sort of just drifted away from the conversation, and then I went towards the window, and I was just staring outside the window, and not the window, the corridor, whatever, the open space. I was just looking outside, and our teacher was walking, and he came, and then he realized there's all these people talking, and I'm just left out there. He thought that he didn't know that I only
Quite a
drifted out.
representation of the Northeast than the rest of India, actually, in that regard.
And the sweetest thing was, he went up to them and said, "She's being left alone. Talk to her as well," is what he said. And they didn't even realize that I had gone, and I was just standing by myself there. And then they all literally just, it was quite comical. They all just literally turned and they're like, "Arey!" And then just came and grabbed me and then pulled me, and they were like, "Okay, continue with the conversation," and just continued the conversation like that. So Delhi that way was very special. Mumbai,
Welcoming and friendly, Delhi. That's how it was.
yeah, I mean, I liked it. They were like my landlord, my first landlady was a very sweet woman. Of course, you have all these people on the streets who are annoying and all that stuff. You have your fair share of bad experiences of men trying to graze past you, or someone passing comments, and then you fight back, and then they're like, "Oh, okay, they're not."
They do speak and they do fight back.
Yeah. So I though have, like my defense mechanism has built up to this point that if someone even touches me slightly, my hand just automatically comes out to hit them. That way I've hit a lot of people. Like it's automatic, like you touch a pack, my hand will just go out and slap that person first, and then the scolding will begin. So
and in Bombay, as an artist, as an actor, like you said, like how casting directors, they want to go for someone from the Northeast. You said that they become eventually very desperate. So how can you say like how exactly it is, like particularly for being from the Northeast? Is there any typecast in how people from the Northeast get?
There's the typecasting, like I've played spa, masseuse so many times, hairdresser, but especially spa and receptionist, those are the like go-to roles for us, and I think that it's just, they're not even thinking about it. They're not even realizing that they're stereotyping us. They just like when they're writing characters for us, they'll be like, "Ha, aur ek ladki hai." I mean, like receptionist, okay, she's from the Northeast. They just do that. And a lot of times also, the way our characters are written, we are written from a lens of pity. Because it's always like, "Arey, to ye Northeast se hai, ye bhi Indian hai, pata hai." Like that, they'll have to
doing a favor to the character by
how we are, like, it's like, like we are like the victims who will emerge victorious. That sort of, they want to show that, and it's just like, like just chill, like chalega. Like there's that savior complex that there is that they really want to show, and it's and it's so difficult to put things across, like like I remember going for an audition, and then I'm trying to learn how to drive, and then I'm upset that I can't drive, and the driver is like, and I'm telling the teaching instructor, no, I want to learn how to drive because auto walos mujhe chinky bolte hai. And I'm like, okay, first of all, auto wala never calls you chinky because he knows that you are his customer, like, so he can't call you chinky, first of all, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just poorly researched. You can see that it's from a very outsider's point of view that they write our characters.
Like that's
You know,
what would make a person from the Northeast learn how to drive, not because that person probably wants to drive, but because the auto wala calls him or her chinky.
yeah. And they think like they make our race the focal point. Like she's from the Northeast, so she's gonna get abused. Someone is gonna call her Chinese, Japanese, and then she's gonna have a meltdown, but she'll fight back. And this is how we show the minorities emerging victorious. And after a point, like, of course, that's what happens in our day. That it happens to us, you know. Yeah, of course, someone's gonna yell "chinky" to you, but then it's not always like that's not.
We
what
do not
forms
ask
our
others to pity us because of that.
And it's not our identity. That's not the whole thing that forms our identity.
Forms
Like
our
I remember
identity,
talking
yeah.
to someone, and like it becomes a focal point. Like instead of saying something like, "Oh, there is in this show there is a doctor and she is from the Northeast," you know. So it becomes, instead of, "Oh, she is a doctor who's also from the Northeast," like, you know, it's not a passing thing. And if you're going to always cast us and make our race the focal point, then it's just very limiting, you know. Like the way you break down these barriers is you just put someone from the Northeast in your film, and you don't even have an explanation why you have someone from the Northeast. You don't
It's
have the
just
whole
one person like everyone else in the film.
yeah, it's just someone who's like the rest and then so it just gets normalized. People look at it and they're like, oh, okay, like, okay, you know, and it just goes with that. I remember like in Guthi, I told the director, so the director is a friend of mine, and then she saw, so that's like she saw a video of mine on Instagram and found it funny, and then she cast me in the film. So I told her, okay, nowhere in this film are we going to mention the word Northeast or Nagaland. We're just gonna make sure she's a Naga girl and just put her there, you know, like, oh, Naga girl and there, but we're not gonna make a big deal, you know. So
out of you being a Naga girl.
Yeah, throughout the film, there's no mention Nagaland. There's no Northeast ka mention. It's just one scene when I'm lying down with my friend and chatting. There is a Naga shawl behind me, just randomly just placed there, you know, like that. And that's how we decided to shoot the film, you know. And right now there's another short film again, which a friend of mine directed, and it's in post-production. And I told her, like, we're not gonna again mention that I am from Nagaland or from the Northeast. We're just gonna just
let
put
it
that
be.
face. Let it be. Yeah. And because that's not the focal point. Her race is not the focal point. Her story is the focal point, you know?
Yeah. Also, probably you also want to emerge as an actor and not particularly an actor from Nagaland, you know, doing a lot of like similar kind of roles, right?
It's like I've actually even been on sets and changed dialogues that I didn't like. Like I would go to the last show that I did. I told the director, I was like, I don't want to say this line. You know, like, why are we bringing race into this factor now? Like, why is she saying, Bachpan se log mujhe chinky, Chinese, Japanese bolte hai? Why is she saying this? Because it sounds like she's complaining about racism, and I know her character, she's not going to do this, you know? And the director was so sweet. He's like, okay, let's just leave it. Let's just leave the line. Or we'll just put another line. What can you think of that we can put? You know, and then that director was so nice. He just allowed me to say whatever I wanted to say.
But like, you are probably, not everyone would stand up for like such changes. And so I guess we have a long way to go in terms of making changes about how we get represented. Yeah.
You can't just go and you can't just throw a tantrum and say, no, I want my lines to be changed, because you can get replaced like that, you know?
Not many people would like to take that risk.
Yeah, and a lot of people think that actors have a lot of power, but we don't. We are literally the carpenters who have been called in for an architect building a house. You know, like my role is just to fix the windows, and I can just say like, sir, iska ye wala glass nahi chahiye, wo dusra glass please dal do. Like I can do that, but the overall vision at the end of the day is not my vision.
It's in the hands of the architect.
Yeah, it's in the hands of the director, the producer, all the stakeholders, and like whatever I'm able to do, I can only do in the limited space that I have been given. And a lot of people don't realize that. So whenever a film comes out, that it's the actor who gets the bashing, when a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of other factors that go into it, you know?
Intertwined, the entire process.
It's all intertwined. Like I remember when Axone came out, a lot of people were angry, saying, and people just asking me, how can you be okay with Shayoni Gupta being cast as a girl from the Northeast? And I'm like, what do I say to that? You know, it's so difficult because you get stuck. Of course that film had its issues. It was not the best film. Like that, I openly say that it was not the best film.
I'm so glad that you were saying that, despite being one of the primary faces of the film itself. Because
I'm a secondary cast.
No, but still, like you might have like only like a few dialogues, but that also represented where the main issue was, since the main issue of the film was about racism. Although, like you said, there were problems in the film about representation, about, you know, representation of certain tribes in a different attire. Like those are the problems, but usually we don't see a part of the cast like accepting that and, you know, saying that, oh yeah, there were problems.
We sign contracts that specifically say that we can't bash the film, you know, like whatever films we do, whatever series that we do, we can't bash the films, you know. So I'm not saying it's a horrible film, but I'm saying that there are issues with the film, because it's this is me hoping that if they find
it's certainly not a horrible film, though. I mean, of course, nobody, but calling out certain problems in a movie which is already so sensitive towards certain issues, I think it's that's how constructive criticism is built.
It was not like there were issues, and I remember someone getting mad at me and saying, "How could you be okay with Shayoni being cast as a Nepali person?" And that onus is not on me. Like I'm not the I'm not the casting director. I'm not the director or the producer or the production house who's taking these calls. You know. And at the end of the day, like I know I did the film because I've lived through a lot of those experiences in Delhi, where whenever I cooked, I used to burn agarbatti at the door so that the neighbors would not smell it. I've had cops land up in my house because they thought I was cooking dog meat. So they realized that this, you know, there's a funky smell coming from this house, and the neighbors was like, "Kutta, you know, kutta kha raha hai." And then they called the cops, and the cops came, and they're like, "Haan, suna hai ki yahan pe koi kutta kha raha hai." And they just came like that, and we were like, "No." And we took them to the kitchen, and we showed them our food. We're like, "This is this, this is this." And then the cops got really interested. And they were like, "Acha ye machli hai, acha machli sukha ke khate." Like, and then we were like, "Ha, aur hum ye bhi khate hain." Then it became like a whole experience of them, of us showing like all our herbs, and the cops got really intrigued. They're like, acha. And then
how unfortunate this is that it had to happen through this way, where cops would actually invade your house because they think that you're eating a particular meat not preferred by the rest of the country.
But then the cops did not yell at us. They got really intrigued, and they looked at the ingredients and and then they left, and then they scolded the neighbors, say, "You can't just call us uselessly like this." And they took money fine from the neighbors and they left. So that was actually quite funny, you know. So like that I find that whole incident so funny. So a lot of these resonated with me, you know, and then I was like, okay, I'll do this.
Yeah, I mean, when we watched a movie, many things resonated with many of us who have actually lived outside our home state from the Northeast, and that's why probably it was welcomed unanimously by everyone, but also it also faced its fair share of criticism, and for the right things, of course. And
it was a film, I would say it was a film more for the mainland than for the Northeast. Because what happened, and so if it's still like, even if yes, there are problems with the film, but if you still have managed to put, because after the film came out, I a lot of the cast members, we got messages
Mm-hmm.
from people saying, we
Mm-hmm.
never knew that you faced this, and I'm so
Mm-hmm.
sorry you had to go through this. There was an overwhelming number of messages just apologizing to us, saying even the simple act of cooking your own food, I didn't know you guys had to go through this much trouble, you know? So it made people aware, and then
Yeah.
we sort of had our foot at the representation door, you know, like it was
Yeah.
just like a little bit
One
like, oh,
small
here's my
step
food.
towards that long journey of, of
Yeah.
correcting people's mistakes on how they see us and how we would rather want to be seen.
And it's really funny because after that film, we noticed, a friend of mine messaged and said, I'm so glad that film came out because I'm getting more acting roles, is what she said. I'm getting more
Yeah.
audition roles. And
Mm-hmm.
after she said, I also thought about it, and and then I realized there are more casting calls for the Northeast happening. Look, I don't. Maybe it has no connection with the film, also, or maybe it's just maybe it's like a shift that's happening. But there are definitely more roles. You kind of
Probably
realize
it
that
did
there
play a
definitely.
small yet significant role in also helping the actors get more visibility, of course. Probably it did.
Yeah, yeah, like
Now,
that.
coming back to Nagaland, Merenla, because uh, your content calls out on a lot of things about Nagaland. For example, the corruption in Nagaland, although in a very humorous way. But like I
Yeah.
have previously mentioned, like your content calls out on a lot of important aspects, including the rampant corruption in the state. So, and you also mentioned that you have faced a lot of negative feedback from people, as much as it is appreciated, but there is also some negative feedback in that. So I want to know, like, to what extent do these negative feedback go to? Like, do they include bullying, threats, and all of that?
A lot of them come from unknown accounts.
Okay.
Because half of the time, like on Instagram, you're like, you see this message, you're like, what? And then you go to the profile and you see the profile that, ah. And then you sort of just
Mhm.
understand, okay, yeah, makes sense that this
So
person
have you
is
now
really
like
being.
reached a phase where you don't care about like whatever whoever is saying, and you just want to go ahead with your content regardless of whatever like the bullies have to say to you?
It depends. Like sometimes you read a comment and you just like, huh, and then you move on. But sometimes it affects you. Like it
Yeah.
depends on your mood also. If it catches you at
Yeah.
when you're having a bad mood, then it can be quite upsetting.
Hmm.
Also, not just upsetting because it just shows the backward mind of the people. Like I remember I made one video and there was this guy that this comment that really pissed me off because he was like, also, in a lot of the comments, a lot of the trolls from the Nagaland who comment are usually men who
Hmm.
believe they have complete authority over a woman's body.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I've noticed that for a lot of Naga men, humor is making fun of a woman's body, big boobs, small
Mhm.
boobs, tits, tits, tits. And that is the level of humor. So they
Yeah.
don't realize. So the moment a woman
That's
starts thinking,
humor to them. Yeah.
yeah, like, oh, and then I saw her butt cheeks. Like I remember there was an Instagram page, an Instagram humor page from
Mm.
Nagaland that posted a video of a concert, and
Mm.
there was this volunteer who was stopping these women from going forward, and there was this woman who was like lunging forward, and this guy took the opportunity and he grabbed her boobs. He came,
Okay.
he grabbed
Okay.
her boobs, and this girl, because it's so crowded, she didn't realize. So and they were like, oh, this guy is so lucky, and the comments from a lot of the men were like, oh, lucky guy, lucky guy, lucky guy. Then
That
the
he got
women
to
came.
grope her. Mm.
Yeah, and then the women came in and said, "In from what angle do you find this funny?" And then the women started commenting, and then the video was removed. But
Mm.
to think that that is funny even in the first place, that a man
Or
went
the
and
fact that the video was even like put up on social media in the first place, thinking that it
yeah,
was a
like they
hilarious
thought it was
content.
too much, to put up that just
Yeah.
that's unfortunately that's I've come to slowly realize that that's how a lot of men tend to think.
Mm.
Like someone who will just like the moment a woman is owning her body and making fun, like because
Strong
you know what
stance
else,
for herself.
whatever I want to make, whatever I want to make of my body, you know, like I remember putting up a video of my padded bra, and I was
Mm.
singing Sia's Titanium, like shoot me
Mm.
down, but I won't fall, I am titanium, and I was just like that. And then this guy like commented saying, "Oh, I didn't know you would wear that big," like something he said. I didn't know
Mm.
you would wear something that big. I thought your bra size was different, you know.
Mm.
So I said, well, actually, I'm a 32B in Marks and Spencer. And then, you know, like the thick straps are the best. So, like, if you have a sister or your mom, please like recommend them to go for Marks and Spencer. They always get you measured, so you get the best sizes. Cotton bras are the best. I don't trust the lace ones. And I gave him a whole lowdown of what kind
You
of
gave
bras.
him, yeah.
And recommending it to his mom and his sister as well. And I think he replied, or I don't know, I didn't bother to check.
Mhm.
But that's the thing, you know, the moment you're like, and it's like the girls get it.
Yeah.
The moment you say like, hello, this, like, you know, that you show your bra. I'm like, if there are bras hanging, and I remember in my one video, bras were hanging in the background, and the guys like, bra, you know, it's just a bra.
Like something that they have never seen before, or such. Yeah.
Like excitement, like it's just I don't know, it's just if that's your level of humor, then it's really pathetic and it's quite sad. So
Yeah.
wait, coming back to that video that I was talking about, I had posted about minister again, like, you know, whatever, and this
Yeah.
guy was like, oh, she keeps commenting about ministers and their mistresses. Maybe she is one of the minister ka side chick,
Oh.
but she would never be a side chick because her chest is too flat, is what he
Mm.
said. Okay, her chest is too flat. No one would want her. Okay,
Eventually, everything would be reduced to a woman's body,
so
like even that. Yeah.
I'm just a lump of flesh with a pair of boobs and a vagina. That's what you just get reduced to. And then I exposed him, and then he had to remove his comment. But later on, his chutia tatti friend came back
Mhm.
and left a long comment. He like, why are you this type of feminist? You know, I saw you need to be able to take criticism, bola mujhe. Like I was like,
Okay.
in what way is a man body shaming me and demeaning
Yes.
me?
Any form of criticism.
You know, first he body shamed me, and he's like, oh, she sleeps around with ministers, that's why she knows. Okay, because it's like the whole thing with Rihanna right now, where Times Now is
Yeah.
like Rihanna spent itna paisa at the strip club. You
At
know,
a strip
it's her
club,
money.
right?
She
Yeah.
can spend whatever she wants to do. She could jiggle her boobs the way she wants to do it, and it's none of our business. But it's all about reducing, like no matter what a woman's opinions are out there, you just reduce her and just make her a
To
lump
her
of flesh
body,
that
to her moral character, to her. I mean, something that is totally unrelated to what she spoke about.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just so frustrating. And that guy, and I think I replied to that guy, but he totally did not get the comment. He's like, okay, good to know we're on the same page. You know, I think
Mhm.
he didn't know else to reply, or maybe he couldn't comprehend the
Yeah.
reply.
You
But it's, I
recently
think,
spoke up about one of your personal not just one, actually, several personal experiences which almost
yeah,
all women, especially in India, have experienced more than once, about
or
harassment
being
on the
broke.
streets, of being
Yeah,
groped, of being catcalled. Since you spoke up about it, given that you have quite an important presence on social media, whether it's on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, so how much do you think the responsibility of a content curator or an influencer, if I can call you one, which I'd really like to call you one, actually, so this responsibility to break the facade of how women are safe in the Northeast, because there's this facade that women are absolutely safe in the Northeast and nobody catcalls us on the streets and we never get groped and all of that. So it was rather very brave of you to do that, actually, and finally come up with it. How far do you think the responsibility on the content creators or influencers should be in terms of calling out such things about our home states, and at what cost does it come?
well, that whole post, I was very angry. So it was just a series of just anger and frustration, everything just spilling out that I couldn't contain anymore. That came out in my stories, and like I just started sharing my stories, my personal experiences on my Instagram stories, and then a lot of women started writing to me saying, "Thank you for sharing this because I have gone through this. Yes, I have gone through it." And women started telling me their stories, like telling me about their stepfathers molesting them, about some church ka prominent member molesting them, saying ki, like, I was molested by this man in my church, but no one will believe me because he has a big role in the church, so no one's going to
Men
believe
with
me.
agency and power. Yeah.
So, and then I was like, I can't just keep it as a story and let it disappear after 24 hours. So I just compiled all of them and just made them all into a post. And the amount of messages,
The amount of comments on that very post. Yeah,
and
everyone sharing the similar experience.
85% women just commenting, sharing their stories, saying, "Oh my goodness, this is so true. This is so true," and and you know, it was so nice because there were men who actually said, "Wow, never realized this, but thank you for sharing this. We men have to be better." Like that kind of accountability. No, this is not an attack against men. This is an attack against men who are perverted. You know, perverts who happen to be
or the patriarchal society.
there were men who were able to make that difference. But of course, there were also men who were like, "Do not tarnish the reputation of the Northeast like this." You know,
there are always a few here
hello,
and there, you know.
There were women. There was a woman who spoke out about things happening in Arunachal Pradesh and said, "Yeah, this happens in Arunachal as well. But if I would speak about it openly, you know, like they would just the men would not believe." And this guy just came and commented saying, "Ki, like, you bitch, don't spread lies about Arunachal." And then he said, "Where's the proof that molestation happens?" You know, like it's the whole ki, like, how I'm going to silence with women no matter what, like sort of this thing, you know, like, no, I want to hear your story, otherwise I'm not going to believe it. And for they don't realize that for a lot of victims to speak about a traumatic experience that you have gone through, it's like reliving that experience again. You don't want to talk about it, you know, like you don't want to talk about how you felt when you were 9 years old and that uncle tried to put his finger up your vagina. No one likes talking about that, you know. But when a victim comes forward and says, "Yes, this happens," then we're supposed to listen. And so there was that, like, one or two men who were commenting saying, "No, Shillong is best. This doesn't happen in Shillong." And then two girls came in and said, "Hello, excuse me, born and brought up in Shillong. This happened to me." Yeah. And then they were like, and then he was like, "No," but then maybe they were the outsiders, and they were like, "Hello, there were people from Meghalaya for sure." You know, like it was not an outsider who came and grabbed my ass. You know, and like I think it would, like, for some men reading those comments were a rude awakening. That oh shit, you know, and I've seen this also when I complain about being groped and molested, because men from the Northeast have been held in such a high regard in terms of treatment of women. It's the men will be like, "Oh, but then must have happened to you in Delhi." And I'm like, "No, it happened to me in Nagaland. It happened to me in the streets of Kohima, where a man would just come and grope me and walk away." You know, and there's a difference in the way you are groped in Delhi versus the way you are groped in Nagaland. In Delhi, a man, like from my experiences, a man doesn't come and directly grope you. They come and they've mastered the art of making it an accidental touch. So they do it accidentally. But in Nagaland, it's such a violent, it's the scary feeling of them coming and just grabbing your boobs and then walking away. Like, and it just scares you. Like it's like they have the audacity to just come up to you and be like, "Hey, I'm a man here. I'm just going to do whatever I want with your body."
I have the power to do so.
That difference. So it's just, you know, like, and then I don't know, like, because India is such a horrible place for women, and in the Northeast, the percentage of rapes and honor killings are low, or we don't really have honor killings. Then the men are like, "Oh, then we're doing a great job." I'm like, look, just because you're not killing women because of their honor doesn't mean you're doing a great job. That is the bare minimum you're supposed to do, you know. And that's and I think it was just a lot of anger of all these years of things that had happened to me. I'm like, I'm now tired. I'm gonna expose their shitty asses, and I'm just gonna get this out of my system. And then didn't realize that so many women would just come forward like.
It's a domino effect. Like when you speak up, like there would be 1,000 others who are just waiting to speak up, but that one push of encouragement, and then like everyone else would speak up. And I'm glad that this process has finally started, where men, especially men, creating this make-believe story of how women are safe in the Northeast is finally breaking and getting shattered. And finally people are also getting to know that no, women also get equally harassed on the streets of Northeast as much as they do in Delhi or any other place, in India.
I hate the way that everyone perceives this as a community thing. Like, no, don't bring down the name of the community by exposing this. You know? Then what? Do you want tourists to come and then experience it for themselves and leave?
Instead of rectifying those mistakes and finally facing the mistakes.
You talk about problems when it bothers you so much that you want it to be rectified. Right? Like I know people laugh at me and they're like, but why do you like, even when you're making fun of tribes, why do you make fun of your tribe the most? You know, so I say because I'm aware of my like I just tell them like I'm comfortable enough in my identity that I don't want to just defend it uselessly. I will point out whatever is wrong.
Point out the mistakes from by ourselves. Yeah.
And because everyone's like, oh no, don't paint a picture. I'm like hamara naam kharab ho jayega. I'm like, you already did naam kharab when you decided to go and harass a woman on the streets, you know. So I mean, like, it's just I mean, but then hopefully things are changing.
Hopefully they will. It might take much longer than what we might prepare ourselves for, but hopefully eventually someday it will change. And we have to keep calling ourselves out, like our own community, our own people, and only then probably there would be a solution someday.
I know, and even calling our own community out is also, it's so difficult.
It does come at a huge cost, but but probably there is not many other options left either. Now, Merenla, we have almost reached towards the end of the interview, but I really I mentioned this to you previously as well. Like, would there ever be like any crossovers of whether it's Senti or Hinatoli? You once mentioned how they are inspired by rich women from different parts of the world, and how you just gave them a Naga perspective. But would there ever be a crossover of, say, of the Naga version and the crossover of Senti and Hinatoli and Schitt's Creek, like where all these Kohima divas like lose all their wealth and they have to start from the scratch all over again? Would there ever be anything as such? Will we ever get to see your characters in such a way ever?
I don't know. I mean, that would be an interesting concept, but hey, it's Nagaland, so that would never happen. You know, like you have.
They are never going to lose their wealth. No way.
No, you have enough money stashed in Swiss banks. That's not going to happen. Yeah. But I think I've sort of moved on from Senti and Hinatoli, because when I went home, I just kept making videos of Auntie Narola, and I was like, I feel
Auntie
more
Narola
of an
is also another one. Like,
So it's a lot of people, although don't get my humor, and then they think I'm being serious. And then they get upset. They're like, why is she insulting this? No, but why is she? And lots of like people trying to teach me moral science in the comment section saying, no, but you should not be doing this and all of that. It's just funny. I don't know. If you see my content, it started with me making content for a Naga audience. And now it's slowly, it's slowly shifting towards making a content for like the rest of the country now, you know? And,
because you do and probably what you mentioned at the very beginning is that being one of the toppers of your school and being a state topper, that whether even though you opted for a different career, but you being the school genius still shows in your content, because that's how you that's how you bring up, say, like how you represent all the 8 states of the Northeast in one of your videos, and then like them highlighting their own issues in their own way through different characters, or even these characters like the rich housewives of Kohima and Dimapur, or the rich divas of Kohima and Dimapur, and how, you know, they represent the society. Like that's what the society is actually. That's how it is. And you just show them through one character. So that
It's
shows your
about,
brilliance.
oh, thank you. It's about breaking down something that's complex, and then just viewing it from a totally different angle, you know, like
Yeah.
something that's just in front of you and you don't really realize it, but once you see it through a different lens, then and then, you know, you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense, sort of like that. So yeah,
And we
I'm just
hope
glad
to
people the videos funny.
we just hope to see much more of this coming in future, much more of you in as many
I
different
also
characters
create
as we can see you, and you being a YouTuber, even more successful, you being an actor, a writer, all of that, and wish you the best for your future endeavors.
eventually
And
a cult leader, which is
an aspiring cult leader as well. Yes.
I had fun. Thank you.
I'm
That was
glad you
fun.
had fun. So did I. So did I. I had immense fun while recording this interview.